But man, oh man, I am super freaking excited about this episode because we have had a lot of learning experiences. We have had some battles with, different things that I feel like we have overcome. And I think that's the special thing about our company. No matter what gets in front of us, we are able to overcome because we're always motivated enough to keep plowing through, knocking down every door that is put in front of us, and just making the best out of bad situations because you only get one life, so you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. I call this year of Crazy Ant Media like Heartbreak Ridge because
Yeah,
it
right.
just makes me think of that movie and with Clint Eastwood and that line that sticks out because we had this like very detailed business plan just logged out, ready to go for this year. The industry had all different kinds of ideas about what was or was not going to happen that kind of made us just go off track from the plan. So we had to improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's the line from Heartbreak Ridge. That's the Marine Corps. You improvise, adapt, overcome. And I feel like that's everything we fucking did in 2023. Crazy Ant Media had to improvise, adapt, and overcome all kinds of shit that happened. But like you said, I mean, when you do that, it's a learning experience. When you do have to improvise and adapt and overcome, you do learn. You find out what you're made of. You find out, are you capable of doing these things? Can you overcome this or can you not? Because if you're going to succeed in this industry, we talk about it all the time. It's not just that you have to have thick skin sometimes from the outside, but you have to have thick skin from the inside because sometimes shit just doesn't go the way you have it planned out. And if you're not able to deal with that, that can really crush you.
Yeah, completely agree, man. Completely agree. This is definitely an industry that you have to have thick skin. You're going to get a lot of no's. That's why we always say selection instead of rejection. But it's definitely something that you have to bob and weave,
Yeah,
right? I mean, if you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth.
that's right.
Quoting other iconic movies. But it's definitely something that I feel like we've learned over the years because we've been doing this for a while. But we've learned over the years that it definitely takes a tribe, right? And I mean, to be able to bring in people who have the same vision or to be able to implement what they know or what they have learned along their own journey to bring into Crazy Ant Media has been amazing. So I wanted to start off with everybody who has worked with us at Crazy Ant Media this year. I mean, Mike for YouTube, Nolan for Crazy Ant social media, and of course, Emily for ITCAF podcast social media. All three of them absolutely did phenomenal this year. They definitely took the brand and took it in a completely amazing direction that we are happy to be sitting here today to say that there is only one thing that we're in the negative percentile on with our social media, and that is due to all of these amazing men and women who have come into Crazy Ant Media and to be able to take our vision and then put their own little flavor on it. I feel like that is very important. And I mean, we would be crazy because it's in the name. We'd
It
be
is.
crazy not to mention our chief marketing officer who ran and was the leader of the social media team, Delana Killick. She has absolutely grown above and beyond, shot through the stars this past year when it comes to leadership,
Right.
right? Because I mean, at the beginning, we started her out as an intern, but now she's a full force paid employee with an executive title. So she's absolutely doing amazing. So I am super proud for her.
Yeah, and look, here's the challenge, right? We brought in interns because one of the goals that we had for 2023 was to expand the company. We were looking to bring in interns. We were looking to hire more employees. We were looking to set up divisions. And then the strikes happened. So when we interview the interns and we're all excited and we find the ones that we want, and they're going to be like, you're going to come in and you're going to learn what it's like to be on a film set, and you're going to learn the ins and outs of how to reach out to publicists, and you're going to learn the ins and outs of contracts, and anything you want to learn about the film industry, you're going to get it because we're doing these awesome podcasts and you're going to interview all these people, and we're going to do 2 movies, and we have this animated series, and then nothing. The strikes happened and everything shut down. So they come in at a time where the industry is completely shut down. So we have to drastically adapt and shift all of our social media strategies. They're not coming in and promoting big name guests on the podcast anymore because we couldn't talk to any guests. They're not coming in and promoting any of our film projects that we're shooting or currently on set because we couldn't shoot anything. We couldn't cast anybody. We couldn't. So they had to adapt. How do we expand our social media presence, our brand, keep everything moving forward when we weren't allowed to have anything happen? And how they did that, the ideas that they were coming up with, like, hey, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, maybe we can do some reviews, maybe we can do, they just started funneling ideas in. Here's what I think maybe that will work. Here's what won't work. Here's what we can try this way, that way. And somehow, some amazing way, between the three that you mentioned, Nolan, Emily, and Mike, and through the guidance of Delana, they figured it out. We saw increases in numbers, and we didn't lose any followers. And we never once, the numbers stayed solid, in fact, increased on both podcasts. We didn't see any drop off on any. How they were able to do that and keep people engaged in what we were doing when we weren't allowed to do anything is a huge testament to their talent and their drive, their creativity, the leadership of Delana. And it was amazing. It was an amazing thing to see, because when you come into a company and you're expecting to be able to learn all this stuff and you have all these goals, and then you're basically like, oops, what do we do? And it was amazing. I'm right there with you. I just think, three unbelievably talented and creative people who improvised, adapted, and overcame and figured it out and accomplished the goals that we had set for them, which was amazing to me. I will forever be thankful. And they're all going to be huge in this industry, or whatever industry they continue to try to move forward in, whatever their paths may lead in the future. They're all going to be successful because they did not break, they did not crack, and they finished. They accomplished the goals that we set out for them, even in the most difficult of times with the most huge obstacles faced in front of them. They accomplished it, which says everything to me that they are going to be hugely successful human beings moving forward in not just career, but in life.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And this was also this crop, because we've had other interns before, but this particular crop of interns, I feel like were very special because I finally got a role reversal, right? From when I was first brought into the company and basically asking questions 24/7 to where now they're asking me questions all the time. So that was an amazing experience to be able to be that person to pass along the guidance and knowledge that I have learned over the years. I thought that was truly something that was I don't there's really no words to it, because it's one of those things where we've talked about it on the mental health podcast, where you always doubt yourself sometimes, and you always are like, am I going to be good enough? Am I going to be able to do the right thing or pass along that knowledge? And I feel like we both did an amazing job, and Delana as well, at just being able to mold them and present new ideas specifically about social media and the entertainment industry, to where they can take that to wherever they go and continue passing all along that knowledge. Because I mean, that's really what Crazy Ant Media is built off of. We talk about it all the time. It's always about lending the helping hand and helping that filmmaker who wants to break into the entertainment industry but doesn't necessarily know how. So I thought that was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and again, on the reverse side of that, we learned from them, because they also had some solid ideas as to how we could overcome what we had to overcome to be able to continue to move forward with our brand when we weren't able to do what we had on the agenda. And I think that says volumes for where we're at individually, because there is no ego. There is no this is our company. This is how we're going to do it. Like, when shit happens, you have to be able to look for outside sources, outside inspiration, and go, do you have a better way? What is your thought on how we can overcome this? And as leaders, good leaders take advice. They know that they don't know everything, and they're able to learn if there's better ways to do it, and to take guidance from other people. So I think that we did a very good job of learning from others about where we could and excel, and where we could change some things up, because we were very set on what we had planned for the agenda for the year, and we had to adapt. And they brought great ideas, and we definitely, I feel, learned as much from them as they learned from us, probably, because there's some strategies that I know for sure that they implemented that we will be continuing to use moving forward, that we have now made them a part of what we do. And so I think that anytime bad stuff happens, it's all about, well, and I don't want to say bad stuff, because we talk about this all the time too. Things happen. And whether they're bad or good is how you react to them. It's what do you do in face of what happened. And that's what determines if it's a bad thing or a good thing. You can't just say this happened and it was bad. We turned things that happened this year into positive gains, into positive movement, into learning experiences. So I view this year, even though it didn't go the way we wanted it to in every aspect, a good year, because we had things happen that enabled us to move forward, and that we will continue to move forward with. So I don't look at anything that kind of went off the rails this year as a negative. I look at it all as a positive.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Well, I mean, let's lead into social media. Let's talk about what they did for the company and what they implemented and how it saw our numbers increase. So I'm going to break it down for us a little bit by, different social media accounts like Crazy Ant, ITCAFpodcast, EOP, and then of course our YouTube subscribers. So starting out with, of course, the flagship, Crazy Ant Media, on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, which was a completely new one this year. That
Yep.
kind of came out of nowhere, and TikTok. So for Instagram on Crazy Ant Media, we saw our followers increase by 5.37%, which is awesome because Instagram's algorithm has been completely changing rapidly over the past year and a half. They've been trying to they're trying to compete with TikTok, making it more of a video platform. So to still see that increase is absolutely amazing. And then leading into Twitter, which is by far also known as X formerly known as Twitter, I guess you could say. Um, but it's by far our biggest platform. It's by far where we get the most engagement. I'm sure all of you out there know that. And it's honestly my favorite. I think it's your favorite as well.
Yeah.
But our numbers for Crazy Ant Media's Twitter, they jumped 11.94%. So that's absolutely amazing, just to be able to continue having that community that we grew over the time that we started Crazy Ant Media to where we are now, and bring in new people to that community is something special, man. I think, to be able to do that, it really gives a lot to Nolan, who is running all of these accounts and who implemented new ideas with like Letterbox, with us giving our own personal individualized reviews and things like that. So that definitely really helped. But then leading into Threads, this one was completely new, and they're still trying to figure out what they're doing with their
Yeah.
lives. Let's be honest about it. You can't use hashtags yet. You can just now do GIFs over the past couple months, and a couple of other things that they're still trying to implement. They're still trying to grow because everybody knows this is a Facebook and Instagram company. So on Threads, we really didn't have any expectations for this. So, I mean, of course, our numbers grew 100% because starting from zero to wherever we are now, they grew immensely. So that
There's
is always
only one way
awesome.
to go when it starts at zero. Like, you can't,
Exactly.
yeah.
But I am happy to say that we are over 100 followers on Threads. I believe we're at like 123, 124. And that's amazing for a platform that we honestly didn't focus a lot on. We
No.
tried to be active because I mean, we're very honest about this situation. We were behind on the TikTok game, and that I feel like that's why we're still kind of figuring out our groove with that particular platform. But on Threads, we were like, no, we got to get the jump on this. Let's catch the ball. Let's figure out, let's at least have a presence, but not necessarily focus all of our time on it because we have to see how they grow as a platform as well.
Right.
So, I mean, to have the numbers we have on there is awesome. So I'm really happy with that. I give all credit to Delana on the threads because she's been running the hell out of all of the accounts on threads. So kudos to her. And the only thing that we dropped, and it was literally one follower, it was TikTok on our Crazy Ant Media page. And it says negative 2.7%. But again, if you equal that out, that's one follower. But with companies on TikTok, we're still trying to figure out what's our niche because they are very formulaic and very, algorithm based. So we're trying to
Yeah.
figure that out. And we're looking forward to bringing new ideas and new opportunities to TikTok in 2024. But all across the board for Crazy Ant Media, you see that green, you see the increase. So that is awesome to see. But the big one of the year is by far ITCAF podcast. We have grown immensely on social media with ITCAF. I mean, just on Instagram alone, we gained 52.2% more followers. That's insane, man. I mean, what Emily did with ITCAF podcast social media account, specifically on Instagram, because we were talking about our struggles with the algorithms and trying to figure out how to manipulate it in our advantage. But what she was able to do and bring to the table was absolutely amazing. And no doubt about it, followed with the ensued of the percentage of gains. So that's always nice to see.
Well,
And
I
then
have a couple theories on that. Like I
for
legit
sure,
I really do because everybody, I think everybody assumes that when you do a show and you interview celebrity guests, the majority of the people tune in to listen and or watch because they want to see the celebrity guests. Now, for 7 months out of this season of our show, we could not interview guests. And
yeah.
yet our numbers increased by 52%. I think because now I think this was a brilliant time to show the industry and our listeners, old and new, that if you are looking for a place to go to know what the fuck is happening in the entertainment industry, this is the show you listen to. You listen to ITCAF podcast because anything that was happening news-wise with the studios, with the strikes, with the actors, whatever, we were your go-to source. And I think we saw a massive increase in our listeners, and this is all credit to Emily for how she presented it. If you needed to know what was happening with the strike, if you needed to know where the studios were thinking about what was going to happen, what shows were not going to go forward, what movies were being delayed, what was all of the ramification from the money, from the delays, we had it. We had it covered. And I think that's a huge reason why we saw that massive increase because people found a place that they could go to figure out what the fuck was actually happening. Not the rumors, not the bullshit. We think this is going to be, maybe this is going to be canceled. Maybe this will show up. Maybe that. We had facts. We told you exactly what was happening every step of the way and how it affected. And again, I think that just proves our listeners don't only tune in, new and old, to who we're going to interview. They tune in to find out what's going on because they know we know. And I take great pride in that. And I, like you said, huge kudos to Emily for figuring out how to present that on our social media platform. She did a brilliant job of luring people in. Because not only did we maintain our audience, we gained audience. Meaning she figured out how to successfully go, hey, you want to know what the fuck's going on? Come on and listen. And she did that brilliantly. And I just, those numbers, I love those numbers. Because you and I, we take great pride in the fact that we know what we're talking about. In fact, we predict what's happening. We know way out. We go back and listen to any of our old shows, and you will see that we predict things that have indeed happened. And we take great pride in knowing the industry that well. And so to see that, I could not be more pleased at those numbers and how people stayed with us and came to us during the strikes. It was brilliant. I just loved it.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. And I mean, of course, it leads into the same thing with Threads that it was with ITCAF, that it was with Crazy Ant. The increase is phenomenal on that one. So that's awesome to have a presence on there. And then for ITCAF podcast on TikTok, we gained 21.27% more followers on that one. And I just feel like, that's all credit to Mike and Delana being able to cut our sound bites and be able to put out funny stuff, put out information stuff, and to be able to figure out the algorithm with that, because they also started to figure out, and this is a new thing that's still going on right now, the closed captioning videos are more popular than videos that don't have closed captions,
yes.
Which is interesting. I mean, it's the small things that you don't even really think about until you bring people in here to actually like sit down and review other people's podcasts and review what's working, what's not on ours and theirs, and to be able to figure that all out. So
said it really well right there too. They balanced really well. Mm-hmm. They're like, let's make some funny shit. Let's make some serious shit, right? Because two things that do really well on TikTok that both Delana and Mike have brought to our attention and that we have kind of figured out as well: comedy and fucking rants. Yeah. And I feel like during the strike, we made fun of a lot of shit and we got angry at a lot of shit, and they balanced that on TikTok really well, and we saw those numbers go up because people wanted to hear us get angry and they wanted to hear us make fun of shit. It was a really good job. I'm glad that you said that because they did do a really good job of finding that balance. It wasn't all rants. It wasn't all poking fun. It was a nice little, here's what we're going to do. Today we're fucking angry. Today we're laughing our asses off. And it was really good. I loved it. They did a phenomenal job, man.
Oh, man. Completely agree. Completely agree. And of course, leading into our new podcast that we started this year, social media, we're talking about Everything's Okay. And we really didn't know what to expect because, we're so entertainment based. We're so into the actors, the directors, the writers, the editors, producers, all of that aspect. But then we bring in this completely different realm of entertainment, right? That we weren't necessarily at the beginning really comfortable with. I remember both of us had very high anxiety levels just about to do the first episode.
Yeah.
Really the first couple, let's be honest about it. But EOP did amazing this year. Of course, starting from nothing to where we are now. Instagram for Everything's OKP grew 157.1%. And Twitter grew 171.4%. Threads, of course, grew that 100%, and then TikTok grew that 100%. No matter what those numbers are, we started from zero and to where we are now, so they grew immensely. So we're happy that we are gaining an audience there. Year one is always the hardest, and it's always the hardest to stay most consistent because it's not what we're used to, specifically with podcasting when we're so entertainment-based. So it's amazing that we're able to start to find our community with that specific genre of podcasting. And we'll go more deep into it with the guests and the topics and that stuff later on. But I'm just happy that we are starting to find our footing on social media with that as well. So thank you all out there for supporting us with that journey.
Yeah, because mental health is so critically important and we need to take the stigma away from it. So talking about it and getting it out there is so, so important. And this is an example of one of those things where we had to pivot. Right? And I just want to send, and like you said, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I do want to acknowledge and send a huge shout out to all of our celebrity friends. Because they helped with that drastic pivot. It's like, how can we build this new podcast? How can we get exposure for this new podcast? Obviously, named talent helps bring in viewers. But during this time where they were not allowed to promote projects, when they were not allowed to talk about anything that they had been working on or even old stuff, We had so many of our friends have the courage to come on our new podcast and talk about life, talk
Hmm.
about mental health, talk about things that they were struggling with or going through, or and for them to be able to open up the way that they did and just to come on and help us launch this podcast in a very difficult time. They were on strike. They didn't know the future. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they were going to be working again ever. Were they going to be able to pay rent? Were they going to lose their houses? And for them to take the time during that turmoil to come on and talk to us and do what they did and open up into it, just forever grateful for each and every one of them to be able to do that during a time of such strife in their own lives. And that was amazing. That was amazing. And hopefully helped them. It was a very stressful time for them. So to be able to come on and just talk about life and like, hey, I'm fucked up right now. You know, I got to talk. Hopefully that was we joke about it all the time that it's like, you know, free therapy. It's our own free therapy session. And hopefully it was for them too, to be able to come on and share life and just talk about it during that time, because I think it was so necessary and needed, you know? And
Yeah.
who knew that we were going to launch a mental health podcast at a time where fucking everything would go haywire and mental health was going to be so massively important during the time that we launch it. So it was just, it's one of, again, those things that where you can take it either really bad or you can look at it as a really positive. Mental health is tough right now. We've got a ton of stuff going on in our industry and people are struggling. Let's talk about it. And we spun it to a positive and just, it's always, I love that. I love when we can just take it and make it a positive and just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's really tied for top spot of most achievement for the year because it was a battle,
It
right? I mean,
was.
we've been talking about it this whole time through the social media part of this industry news. But it's like, you know, what we did with ITCAF podcast and then this year, back half of last year, and then this year taking YouTube more seriously because our YouTube numbers gained about 63.5%. And that's all credit for Mike as well, because he is the one who brought out the idea of, you know, you only record things, you know, once or twice a week, but we can chop those up and let's put those out every day so that we do have constant content
Yeah.
coming out every day on our YouTube channel. And I mean, that has definitely helped us in the long run, man, because like I said, we've been doing this for like 6 years and we never really took YouTube that seriously. We were always focused on the more social platforms. But I think what he did and bringing him into the company definitely helped with that because it explored so many different ideas and so many different like shorts that I feel like can definitely help us out in the long run. So, I mean, all in all of our social media numbers are great. Everything's in the green except that one follower on TikTok, but everything is amazing. It's a positive year when it comes to social media. So
He
I
fucking
just we can't.
disagreed with our Marvel commentary. Fuck
He
him.
did.
I know which one dropped off as a follower. We know who it was.
It's
Fuck
what it was.
you.
It's what it was. But man, I mean, again, Delana, Nolan, Emily, Mike, thank you all so much for what you guys did for our social media and YouTube pages. It's honestly amazing. And we're hoping to continue that progress moving forward
Without
and
doubt.
continuing hitting all of our goals because, I mean, as you can tell, we can do it. We can do it. We just got to keep our focus and we got to keep our mind to it, and it's going to happen. But I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, and everything's okay. It was, I think, specifically with this year, with everything going on, that was our biggest thing, right? That was our biggest thing, in my opinion, that came out this year that was completely different than anything we've ever done before. And get this, guys, this is different from even ITCAF. 18 episodes with 22 guests. We did an amazing balancing job
Yeah.
with that was something that we were not used to because max we would have 2 people on ITCAF at once, but on this show we had max 4 people. That is insane, and I give you all the credit for that because you started that one, and that was fucking insane. I mean, you handled that very well.
I mean, it's yeah, and diving into uncomfortable situations with a group of people. It's hard enough to talk about an uncomfortable situation one on one, but then we're gonna have a group of people. It was I appreciate that you said that, but I throw all that credit back out to the guests because they did a phenomenal job of making those uncomfortable situations comfortable and being able to talk about those things and those topics and I like that. I like that we had multiple guests, right? Because I feel like you do have so many differing opinions and different like these are people that are all associated with one thing and yet had differing opinions on that one thing. And that is how you engage. That is how you inform. That is how you erase that stigma. We are from this background and this background and this background and this background, but we have all dealt with this problem and we have all dealt with it differently and we are all here together. That is how you spread. That is how you erase that stigma and say, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your skin color. It doesn't matter your economic back. It doesn't matter. We're all in this together and we're proving it with these 5 people right here. 5 very different people all in the same situation, all dealing with a subject. And I'm looking forward to, in the new year, continuing to have those broad conversations with groups of people because I think it just goes a long way with breaking the stigma. Because I feel like, there's everybody who thinks it's only me. Nobody else must be going through this. Or somebody who has money couldn't possibly understand what it's like to go through this. Or somebody who's poor couldn't understand what it's like to go through it. And we threw all that out the window and said, we're going to talk to everybody from everywhere of everything. And we're going to talk about, and I loved it, bro. I loved it.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, big kudos to our guests because some were not even celebrities, some were not filmmakers, some were actually family. We had 2 episodes of family sessions that my mother and your brother, I'm so like, I commend them so highly because this is not their life. They don't talk about this like openly like we do. They don't have a chance like we do for the podcast to let all of that go or to talk about it publicly for millions of people to listen to. So I mean, huge kudos to both of them. Like that was such an amazing experience. And like to be able to, because now it's interesting because, there's so many topics that you can talk about with mental health, but now with it being a new year, we can go back and revisit those old topics with new people.
Yes.
So I think that's an interesting thing as well that we get to balance and try to figure out like different formulaic ways to promote this podcast and have these episodes about these subject matters and all of these different things. So, I mean, yeah, everything's okay, man. I mean, I think that was, I mean, personally for me, just because I hate talking about things and I know you do too, but like it was a monumental thing to where like I'm more open about it to talking about mental health in real life, about my trauma in real life because of this podcast and because of doing the podcast. So that's my golden arch right there. That's my golden ticket. So I appreciate you being open for that podcast and being able to bring that to our audiences that we built with ITCAF and Crazy Ant, and to be able to find a new community with the mental health people who are going through something or know someone who's going through something. So, I mean, it's been an amazing experience.
I'm glad that you came to me with the idea, and I was hesitant. I'll be honest with all of our listeners out there right now. I was hesitant at first because I'm terrified to talk about things like that. And I was like, how is this going to go over? Is this going to be you talking? Because I don't talk about shit like that. I just don't. I don't open up. For me being the mouth, and I talk and I get it. When it comes to my personal shit, I'm like, and so I was like, is this a good idea? I don't know if this is a good idea, but I'm so glad we did it. I'm so glad that it got out there because, as you guys know, I've been on this journey over the last several years, and the amount of healing that I was able to do through this podcast, talking about things that I had never talked about. The one example that like just starkly hits me like every time that I think about it is I was married for a long time, you guys, like a long time, and I had my ex-wife say, I didn't even know that. I've never heard you say that. You never told me that. When you are married to somebody for a very long time, decade, like, you know, kind of the idea that I would never bring something so personal up to someone that I had so much love for and shared everything with, including a child. The idea that when she starkly said that to me, I never knew that, you never said that to me. That was the realization for me with EOP that, wow, this is what we're doing right now. I opened up in a way I had never opened up before, ever. And when you hear somebody say that, that's when I knew we were doing the right thing. That's when I knew this was going to be something that's going to work, because now we can get that out there. And if we can help other people do that, which I think we did this whole first season, I think we helped a lot of people. The comments that we got and the emails that we got and all the kind of stuff of, I didn't think anybody else out there was going through this, or the way you said that made me think. I had people find siblings they didn't know they had after listening to. They were like, "Wait a minute, what kind of a?" I don't know. It's just, I'm so glad you even thought of it and came, and I'm glad that we were both brave enough to go, okay, let's give it a shot. You know, let's see where it goes, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and I cannot wait until next year and next season, season 2, because like you said, we can readdress some stuff and the list of stuff that I want to talk about this coming season. And we're going to get crazy deep, y'all. Suicide amongst children, like just so many topics that we are going to dive into. But, man, what an incredible accomplishment this year. What an incredible accomplishment. It was amazing.